More folk are coming to join the synagogue. So I occasionally, Shabbat B'Yachad, folk, teachers, I can't believe I'm telling you teachers, Shabbat B'Yachad folk, I'm going to ask you to have your siddur there, to be, you can't sing along, but you can sign along. I think we've got Phoebe helping us with the signing. Our service will be slightly shorter this morning. So those of us who are reading up here will be looking at the cameras sometimes, so those at home feel part of it. We are beginning on page 4. So delighted to have Natasha come from Tefillah into Shabbat B'Yachad. So we're going to begin with Matovu. I'm going to ask you to stand page 4 as we welcome everyone at home as well. Shabbat Shalom and welcome everyone. What a delight to have Natasha leading us. So if you were expecting to see Dean, we have Natasha as well now, who leads so much of Ivriya, and it is a delight. Everyone, let's sit down. We're on page 4. My eyes just fell upon my fellow student all the way through Leo Beck College. We were ordained together 20 years ago, this Thursday. So lovely to have Rabbi James Barden with us. What a delight that he managed to get a morning off his synagogue to join us. We now go to our study passage, and I believe Maya is going to read, and we are at the top of page 5 to sing our blessing over Torah study.
Asher Kiddushanu Achia used to say, find yourself a teacher, get yourself a friend, judge everyone by their merits. This is what happens here at FPS.
Thank you, Maya. So let's go straight to page 6. We know in our synagogue, whatever we begin, whatever we're committed to, whether it be social justice, whether it be learning, whether it be the work that we do on a Shabbat morning, that the important part is beginning and trying our best and knowing that sometimes we don't complete things. So top of page 6, Lo alecha hamlacha ligmor. It's not your responsibility to finish the work, but neither are you free to not even try. And now I think with some actions, I don't know if we've got actions from you kids from Ivrea, from where you're sitting, it's very hard to resist joining in with Natasha. Kol ha'olam kulo, page 8. All the world's a very narrow bridge, and maybe we are at a bridge now in our world and our society as things open up and unlock for us, and the main thing to recall is to have no fear at all.
העולם כולו גשש המאוד, גשש המאוד, גשש המאוד, כל העולם כולו גשש המאוד, גשש המאוד. 2, 3, 4.
So you have a fan base at the back, but obviously 50% of those is your mother, exactly. But I mean, that's all we want, is our mother to be cheering for us at the back of a synagogue. Let's stand, everyone. We are almost at the Baruch Hu, the Yishtabach. I'm going to suggest that where we can't sing, that we do clap to be responding to Natasha. So we're on the Yishtabach now, page 8.
ישתבח שמך לעד מלכנו המלך, האל המלך הגדול והקדוש בשמיים ובארץ. כי לך נוער אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו. שאו שפך הלל וזמרה ברכות והודאות מתהווה עד עולם. ברוך אתה אדוני הבוחר בשירי זמרה.
Amen. The Baruch Hu, we're on page 10 as we prepare for the Shema. We have welcomed each other, we've welcomed Shabbat morning. Now is the time to show ourselves that we are ready for prayer in earnest.
la la
standing as we go to the Shema. Baruch atah Adonai yotzeh hamorot. The first blessing where we notice the changing of seasons, and the second blessing that reminds us we are loved and there is much to celebrate in being part of a Jewish community. Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'yamo Yisrael b'ahava. Do we have Phoebe ready to sign Shema for us up at the front? I think that would be lovely. We are on page 12 for the Shema. I said last night at our Shabbat service that Paula noted that, of course, most of us in the community, when we gather for prayer these past 16 months online, we haven't necessarily seen our children, who have all been beavering away, working with Zoe, our amazing director of education here, leading Ivriya. And so there is something just so pleasing about the final Ivriya of the year, that you guys are all part of leading this family service and the community getting to see you once again. Normally they see you reaching your hand out for the chocolate fingers at Kiddush, so they're seeing you in a slightly different way this morning. Fantastic.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto, Le'olam va'ed. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto, Le'olam va'ed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto, Le'olam va'ed. Le'olam va'ed.
Everyone join me. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha, v'chol levavecha, u'v'chol nafshecha, u'v'chol mo'odecha. V'hayu hadavarim ha'ele, asher anochi matzavecha hayom al levavecha. V'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam, v'shibtecha b'veitecha, u'v'lechtecha v'derech, u'v'shokbecha u'v'kumecha. Ukashatam laot al yadecha, v'hayu totafot beinenecha, ukatavtam al muzot beitecha, uvisharecha. Lamantiskaru. Lamantiskaru. Vasitem et kol mitzvotai, v'item kadoshim le'lohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem, asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim, liot lachem le'Elohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem. Then we recall the moment of standing at the Sea of Reeds. With great joy, Moses, Miriam, and all Israel sang to you this song.
Kodesh no
Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Ga'al Yisrael. So we're going to now go straight to tefillah. I forgot to invite you to sit down, but as you're up, feel free to sit whenever you choose to. Everyone's used to praying in their living rooms, in their kitchens, and choosing how to do it. And there is much to be said for that. But for those in the sanctuary, if you want to stand together, the Amidah means standing. We are on page 16 as we go into the Amidah prayer. Watching our young people of Ivriah show all the Hebrew that they have learned this year, able to help us follow the Hebrew of the prayers we're using. We're on page 16 in the first paragraph of the Amidah that our B'nai Mitzvah students lead in their Bar Mitzvah, Bat Mitzvah, B'nai Mitzvah services is of course the one of ancestors. So I'm really inviting all of us here in the synagogue this morning to think about what person in our lives might have influenced the fact that we are standing here in this synagogue this morning praying together. So that's what I'm asking us all to think about, whether we are 5 years old or 55 years old, to think who in our lives has influenced us that we might be standing in this synagogue this morning. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim v'Konei Hakol, v'Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, U'Mevi Gula Livnei B'neihem, Lama'an Shemo B'Yahava, Melech Ozer Moshiach Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'Ezrat Sarah. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי מתים אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מזריח השמש ומוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי מתים ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות מתים, ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיה המתים. So for the Kedusha, for the moment that we offer, that we are, as well as being together, we are having some taste of holiness. We're on page 18. We join me in reading in English or in Hebrew. We sanctify your name on earth as in the prophet's vision. The hosts of heaven sing your praise above, for so it is written. Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzavaot, מלוך על הארץ כבודו, כבודו מלא עולם. ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומך מלכנו תופיע ותמלוך עלינו, כי מחכים אנחנו לך. ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהיך ציון, לדור ודור, hallelujah. So I am going to ask anyone in the sanctuary, it might be harder, pop in your chat the reason why you found your way to praying this morning in our synagogue. Whether you're at home, whether you're here in the sanctuary, I'm going to invite to hear a few names, because instead of offering L'Ador Vador, we're just going to acknowledge that we are mixed generations in our synagogue, our community. So let's hear a few names of why you're here. Yeah, Beverly. Lovely, lovely. Your mother, Natasha's grandma. Anyone else has got a name that has brought them to be praying this morning in synagogue? Bring you, your grandpa who made our Chanukiah, right? In our synagogue. Let's have two more. Why you're here? John, my eyes fall on you.
On me?
Yeah.
Josie.
In fact, many of us might be here because of Josie, actually. Yeah. Danny, why are you here?
Because of the South London Liberal Jewish tradition I inherited from South London Liberal Synagogue through my parents and grandparents who were founders of that synagogue. Why am I here today?
You're here because of
I'm here 'cause of
Laura.
Laura, right.
You're here because of Laura. Thank you. Anyone else? Last one. I'm just going to, yes? Anyone related to me? Yes?
I'm here because you chose the life you chose. You chose to be a progressive rabbi, and I have an Orthodox background, but there was no argument when you made that decision.
Thanks, Mum. Really nice. So those are my parents. I haven't plopped them in the service to say that, but my mum said she's here because I became a progressive liberal rabbi, and she and my dad followed, even though their background was different. Yeah, Ruth.
Because my grandson Sam Field, who
Led the Shema, yeah.
he chose to follow Judaism, and I'm very, very proud of him.
Lovely, fantastic. So let's all say, Raphael, why are you here? Okay. I was hoping for more, obviously, but okay. Page 18. Yeah, it was a good start. Let's read together. Bottom of page 18. Baruch atah Adonai Ha'el Hakadosh. And we're going to offer Vashamru now because we're having a slightly condensed service. Natasha, I should say there is an enormous amount of love for you. Renzo has got his hands in a permanent clap. He's enjoying the service so much, which we take Renzo's praise very seriously. So that is very nice for us. Page 19, but instead of Yismahu, we're going to sing Vashamru.
Oh gosh. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam barit olam beini uvein b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et ha-shamayim ve'et ha'aretz Ubayom hashvi Shabbat vayinafash.
So without marking Shabbat, let's sit down. We're on page 19, bottom of the page. We praise you, O God, for the holiness of Shabbat. And now, top of page 20, we are going to read together in English, hoping that our prayers as a congregation are binding us together. All of you at home and all of us here in the synagogue sanctuary. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otacha levadecha b'yira na'avot. Eternal God, be gracious to your people Israel, and in your love accept their prayers. May our worship now and always be acceptable in your sight. We praise you, O God, whom alone we worship in reverence. Now, as we're going into Modim is the penultimate paragraph of the Amidah, the one of gratitude and appreciation. And this morning, Shabbat B'Yachad is all about Ivriya, our families, our children. All of you who are teachers have an envelope under your seat, and I would like you to open that envelope now while the rest of us read Modim. We give thanks to you, thinking particularly of you, our teachers. Read with me together. Modim anachnu lach she'ata hu Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu le'olam va'ed. Tzur hayenu magen yishenu ata hu lador vador nodeh lecha nasaper tehilatecha al hayenu hamsurim biyadecha v'al nishmotenu hapukudot lach v'al nisecha shebachol yom imanu v'al niflotecha v'tovotecha shebachol eit erev v'voker v'tzoharayim baruch ata Adonai hatov shimcha u'lecha na'er lahodot. Now, in true fashion of being a teacher, one of our most revered teacher, John Rubenstein, was actually reading a book while he was being asked to acknowledge himself as a teacher. But that is modelling, role modelling all the time, John. So now let's offer our morning prayer for peace. Teachers, I think you're required to pop those on your persons so that when we see you on the beamer in a moment, we can all celebrate you. Sim Shalom.
Sim Shalom. Tova uvracha. Sim Shalom. Tova uvracha. Sim Shalom, Tova uvracha. Sim Shalom, Tova uvracha. Chen v'chesed u'rachamim. Chen v'chesed u'rachamim. U'rachamim. Sim Shalom. Tova uvracha. Sim Shalom. Tova uvracha. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael amecha. Sim Shalom. Tova uvracha. Sim Shalom. Tova uvracha.
Beautiful, Natasha. Baruch atah Adonai oseh hashalom. Let's take just a moment for silent prayer and reflection. Just before we go to Oseh Shalom, there's a mincha that we're being taught about.
At Ivriya, we like to make Oseh Shalom a little bit fun because it does tend to repeat the word shalom. peace. So just to create a little bit of the opposite of peace, I assume chaos. Sorry, I'm hearing that this is better. To create something that's the opposite of peace, chaos, we'd like to just offer you this challenge, which Ivriat will demonstrate. If you'd like to join in with us, Ivriat, please could you put your books under your chairs, and in fact everything that you are holding. Join us if you'd like to, and not if you don't. You get a very good seat to watch this humorous activity. For every time we sing the word shalom, we're going to stand up, spin around, and sit down again. It is extraordinary how many times you hear the word shalom in this prayer. Good luck, everyone.
Oh, say shalom b'mamav, say shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, b'nei Adam ba'imru, amen. Oh, say shalom b'mamav, say shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, b'nei Adam ba'imru, amen. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu v'yakol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu v'yakol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu v'yakol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu v'yakol Yisrael.
Yeshua. That was fantastic. I'm glad I wasn't asked to join you. So everyone, let us turn now to the reading of Torah, the center, the heart of our service. We're on page 22, and we are imagining, as we do every week when the Torah comes out, almost that we're standing at Mount Sinai or at the Watergate with Ezra, when we're all gathered together and we hear the words of Torah and they become meaningful for us and we feel really pleased we're in the community, or it makes us cry because we're sorry we haven't been for so long. Either way, this is what we'll do this morning. Page 22. In days to come, join me in reading. The mountain of God's house shall be established as the highest mountain, towering above the hills, and all the nations shall stream to it. Many peoples will go and say, "Come, let us go up to the mountain of the Eternal One, to the house of the God of Jacob, so that we may learn God's ways and walk in God's paths."
Ki mitzion teitzei Torah, Ki mitzion teitzei Torah, Udvar Adonai mirushalayim.
Let's stand up as we open the ark and bring the Torah out. As we see the Torah standing in front of us, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shamo.
Gadlu Adonai iti, Onoramama Shamo Yachdav. Tree of life, tree of life. Let's get ready to be affected by Torah.
It is a tree of life to those that hold fast to it, and all of its supporters are happy. It is a tree of life to those that hold fast to it, and all of its supporters are happy. Shalom, 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 shalom.
is. So as we sit down, a reminder that as we hear about this last portion, we are in the last portion of the 4th book of Torah. So just a few chocolates to reward anyone that can answer any of my Torah quiz. What is the 4th book of Torah, please? I like you're working out, Sam. I'm watching you. I will allow anyone under 18, first round of answers, and then I will go higher. 4th book of Torah. I know that you know this. The English word from the Greek is to do with digits. Gabriel. Numbers. Very good. That was very good. Okay, so, and this last section is all about the journeys that the Israelites have been on. Where did they leave from? Sam? Egypt. Well done. Okay. And who is leading the people? Hannah? Moses. So a couple of bonus, that was a good catch. Couple of bonus questions. Who was Moses' brother? We've got one here who isn't here this morning but was here last night, is in our bar mitzvah year. I happen to know that my rabbi friend here, it's his middle name. No, it's not. No, it's not. I've just given you an extra middle name, so it's not. I'll have to get. In fact, his middle name is one of the patriarchs. If you can guess it, you can get some chocolate. So, Rabbi James Barden's middle name. He's got 2 middle names, haven't you?
Yeah, do it. Say it. Go. Say it.
Isn't?
Yes. We had.
Oh, okay. Oh. It isn't. Oh, Aaron is Moses' brother. Well done. Okay. James's Hebrew name he shares with my son. So now obviously Rabbi James Barden has to have this question answered about him. Or.
He deserves a chocolate.
Yeah. It could have been Reuben. So, but it could have been Reuben. Raphael, I am nervous to throw this chocolate when there are so many people in front of me. So I'm just going to throw it on the floor and you can pick it up. Who was Moses' sister? Moses' sister. Sam?
Sarah?
No. Keep going.
Rachel?
No. Third time lucky before I move. Oh, Hanit. Miriam. Well done, Hanit. Okay. Where, do they build houses in the desert, or where do the children of Israel sleep in the desert? What do they do? What some of us do in summertime? What are they doing in the desert? Let's see. Someone who hasn't answered the question, I kind of want to give more chocolate out to other people. What do they do? Do they build literally proper houses of bricks, or are they something that some of you might be doing this summer? Weather dependent or not weather dependent? What could it be? Let me see someone else answering. What about the second row of girls? I know you know the word I'm thinking. What are the children of Israel doing in the desert? They're not building brick houses. They are setting up camping. I mean, they were setting up camp. Camping adds a certain frisson, doesn't it, to imagining how the children of Israel managed waiting outside the bathroom tent, right? And where are they finally heading? Where do they want to head to? I'm going to give that one to Hanit again. Okay. And who is not allowed? Who is not allowed to get into the promised land? Sam. Moses isn't allowed into the promised land. And the final question, as it's the last book of number 4, and we're going to say a blessing over it, what is the 5th and last book of the Torah? 5th and last book. Is that you, Sam? Are you going to have a go? Anyone else? Adults, I think we can allow adults to go for chocolates now. Maybe especially if you have ordination, James. Last book of Torah. Hannah. It is Deuteronomy. Well done. Deuteronomy. Okay, I think we're going to have a bit of Torah. I am so delighted to be calling up to the Torah today all of our teachers. The truth is, probably many more people than every our teachers could come up with the title teacher, but we are particularly wanting to honour you. The year you've had, the way you have managed to continue to inspire and connect with all our young people over screens, when you've been back in the building, you have been tremendous. And I think here at FPS we have something very special, that many of our teachers are teenagers, homegrown teachers, and we couldn't be more grateful to you. So I'm going to ask you to come up by saying Ya'amdu kol hamorim b'kila shelanu levarech et haTorah. Come up, all of our teachers in our congregation ready to bless the Torah. Are you all wearing badges now that say, what do your badges say?
Certified
Amazing human being, which you are. Who made those badges? Etsy made those badges. Very nice. Okay, just in case we needed to thank someone else. So there, let me just put on my mask while you all bless the Torah for us, and then Elias is staying. We'll be here ready to lift the Torah. Everyone, there are the words of Torah for you to see, and off you go. Baruch Adonai Hamavorach Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Havorach Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher בחר בנו מכל העמים ונתן לנו את תורתו. Baruch Adonai נותן התורה.
Amen. So now we're going to hear about the journeys, about what happens to them, about the final stops that they make. There was one more question I wanted to ask, because we hear about the Egyptians being busy with the last plague. What was the last of the 10 plagues? The most ferocious of them? Gabriel. The angel of death, and particular, who did the angel of death target? So firstborn, absolutely. And was it just humans, or was it animals as well? We're told it was, we think it might have been animals as well. But you're right, it would have been the humans that they were particularly mourning. So we are literally told that when they slipped out of Egypt, it was while the Egyptians were dealing with everything that was happening to them. אלה מעשה בני ישראל אשר יצאו מארץ מצרים לצבאותם ביד משה ואהרון ויכתוב משה את מוציאיהם למעשיהם על פי אדוני ואלה מעשיהם למוציאיהם וייסעו מרמסס בחודש הראשון ב15 יום לחודש הראשון ממחרת הפסח יצאו בני ישראל ביד רמה לעיני כל מצרים. So these are the journeys of the children of Israel that they did when they came out of Egypt. And they came out of Egypt thanks to the power of, it's really giving it to Moses, really, of Moses' strong hand, bringing them out, leading them with his brother Aaron. And guess what Moses did? This is how we know the story. We know the story because humans wrote this story down, but Moses, we're told, Moses also wrote the story down. Moses wrote down the journeyings of their comings and goings according to God, and all the journeys that they took leaving Egypt. And they went from Ramesses in the first month. So Nisan is considered to be the first month, calendar month, which has the festival of Pesach in the first month on the 15th day of the month. The day after Pesach, the day after the angel of death, thank you Gabriel, came, and that was the Pesach sacrifice, while the Israelites had blood on the top of their doorposts, and they left in full sight of all the Egyptians. All the Egyptians could see exactly what was happening. Why? Because the Egyptians were busy burying those who had been struck down by the last plague of death of the firstborn, and even their gods had been punished by our God. Vayisu v'nei Yisrael me Rameses v'yachanu b'Sukkot, vayisu b'Sukkot v'yachanu be'etam asher b'ktzei hamidbar, vayisu me'etam v'yeshev al pi hachirot asher al panei Baal Sofon, v'yachanu is they set up camp. So anyone who's going to be putting up a tent this summer in the rain in the British countryside, you can think of that word, v'yachanu, to set up your camp. V'yachanu lifnei migdol, v'ya'asu mipnei hachirot, v'ya'avru b'toch hayam hamidbaru, v'yalchu derech shloshat yamim b'midbar etam v'yachanu b'mara, v'yasu memara v'yavor Elma uve'elim shtem asara enat mayim ushviim tamarim v'yachanu shem v'ya'asu me'elam v'yachanu al yam suf. So we see their journey. Let's pick up where they left, and they so they came out. So from Ramesses, they set off, the children of Israel set off from Ramesses, they set up their tent in Sukkot, they journeyed from Sukkot, and they set up their tent in Etam, that was on the edge of the desert, and they journeyed from Etam, and then they dwelt in Pi Hachirot, that was again on the edge of Baal Safon, and they set up camp. Look how much moving they're doing, and we know that there were a huge amount of them. So when we go on our camping holidays, we set up our tent and we put it down, but it's only just us. This was hundreds of thousands of them setting up tents and putting them down. This week we learned from the New Israel Fund, the charity that we as a community support, that there are people still in the land of Israel, citizens of Israel, Bedouin, who live a nomadic lifestyle, who move around, whose children don't necessarily go to school because they choose a nomadic lifestyle, but they are full citizens of Israel. And they live very much like these biblical stories. And they set up camp in Migdol, and they journeyed from Migdol to Hachirot, and then they crossed over. They crossed over by the sea next to the desert, and they journeyed 3 days into the desert, and they set up in Marah. They set up camp in Marah, and they journeyed from Marah, and they came to Elma and Elim, the valleys, or no, I'm thinking of another word, around water, around an oasis, and for 12 days they stayed there next to the water, and then they set up camp there amongst the plains of the date trees, and then they journeyed from Elim, and they set up camp at the Sea of Reeds. And the Sea of Reeds is where they got caught up with the Egyptians. For many years we thought it was the Red Sea, but actually Yam Suf is more likely to be the Sea of Reeds. And that's where the story tells us they're calmly camping there, and they get caught up by the Egyptians. So before we say our final blessing, I'm going to ask us to all stand up as we offer this blessing of allowing Torah to strengthen us in our lives, in our own journeys. I feel it's so significant that we are reading the story of the journeys of the children of Israel. In fact, Roy, I think this was Ella's parasha, her bat mitzvah portion, and we offer the blessing to give us strength. And we are all embarking on a journey. Who knows what the next term when you return to Ivrea will feel like, how the world will feel, how our life here in London will feel. So truly we are so touched by the notion of journey. So we're going to say the words, Chazak, thank you. Chazak, chazak, v'nit chazek, which means strength, strength, let us be strengthened. So let's say these words together before our teachers offer the closing blessing. Chazak, chazak, v'nit chazek. Strength, strength, let us be strengthened.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Yeshe koach, and truly just with huge gratitude for our amazing human beings that teach our children. We're told in Jewish tradition that no one is more precious than a teacher. And actually, being a teacher is like you raise that child yourself. And I think of how many wonderful teachers we have in our community. So stay standing as Elias, one of our teachers, raises the Torah. Thank you, Elias. So let's sit down. I am going to pause as we are tying up the Torah, getting ready to put the Torah. Now, chazak, strength we get from the Torah, but we also get strength from people who are exceptional in our congregations. Zoe has been with our congregation for 4 years as of a few days ago in the month of June. In fact, Zoe, being a diary keeper, remembers the day of a Shabbat resold where she decided to accept her offer of a job, and we celebrate her. And I have a couple of people in the congregation who are going to add to that word of celebration. So over to you, Susanna, first.
You've done a me on me.
I may have done. No, you're not allowed any public hugs. You can do it outside if you want. You can take it off.
So my printer let me down, so I apologise for having to read what I wanted to say. The wonderful Zoe has been with us for 4 years, and we wanted to celebrate her. But of course she's busy celebrating Rabbi Rebecca, and that's why we love her. What she brings to FPS is extraordinary, exemplary, and provides more than a perfect model for our whole community, and particularly our youngsters who are growing into their Jewish identity. I have experienced all of the following, and I'm sure others have too during the past 4 years. An encyclopedic knowledge of everything. The 4 further explanations, patient explanations when she's caught your face, either go completely blank or start to panic. The addition of an image or something creative to aid your understanding. The reassuring smile. The generosity of her time. The infectious can-do attitude. The passionate and inclusive enthusiasm she brings to every single project at the synagogue. The hug when something you're about to do is really difficult. The gentle touch on the arm when what you've just done has been really difficult. The compassion, the warmth, the caring. The total and utter acceptance of you at whatever point you are on your Jewish journey and whatever you can bring. Oh, and of course the cake deliveries. Zoe, you are such a vital part of our community, and we are so grateful for everything that you bring and everything that you do, and we're so happy to have you.
Oh, just so perfect, Susanna. Thank you. You really captured what so many of us feel. Now I'm going to ask one of our young teachers who Zoe has seen for the past 4 years grow into a teacher. Maya.
I don't think there's much I can add to what Susanna just said, but and I don't think I have enough time to really say how much of an impact Zoe has had on my journey into discovering my Jewish identity. But over the years, Zoe has just been so dedicated to Ivria and Katie and has made being a young person in the FPS community so enjoyable. And I think I speak for everyone when I say that the opportunities that the young people have had since Zoe has joined the shul have just been incredible. So thank you so much, Zoe, for everything that you've done for us, for me, for the teenagers, and for the young people. Yeah, thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful, Maya. So Maya's just going to stay up a moment. When Zoe came for her interview, she actually interviewed twice with us, and I feel Alex Kinchin-Smith and Alex met Zoe before I did and said, I have just met this extraordinary person who I think could transform our community. So a year later, she came back and she came into our congregation. And one of the things that she said in her interview with us was that nothing is ever bad enough that can't be cured by Maltesers. But she also said, she let us know that she had done her undergraduate dissertation on Harry Potter. And so all of you, as you think about going to university, anything is possible if you can do your undergraduate dissertation. And I think you got a first in it, right? And so I tried to think, and our Sam King helped me think of one particular fantastic quotation. This is an enormous jar of Maltesers and minstrels that make more of a noise in there. And obviously the quotation most apt is from Ron Weasley, and Sam reminded me, don't let the muggles get you down, which obviously could be any one of us in the congregation. And it also just talks about just how amazing you are. We try to find the best quotations. So Zoe, I'm going to let Maya give that to you on her way down. You have brought so much, and it felt so appropriate to do it around the Torah, around the learning, around the way that you make learning so just such an intrinsic, joyful part of our congregation, and yet you always carry that sensitivity, as Susanna captured so beautifully, for everyone. So we are incredibly fortunate to have you, and I just wanted to celebrate you this morning next to the Torah. So everyone, I am going to ask us now to stand as we prepare to put the scroll away. So we have community prayers, and then we will go back to It is a Tree of Life as we put the scroll away. So Mum, if you want to come up here. Oh, and Dad.
Eternal God, whose dominion embraces the universe, we ask your blessing for our Sovereign Lady, Queen Elizabeth, and all the royal family, for those who govern our country, and all who influence the quality of its national life. Make them conscious of their responsibility, and teach them to exercise it in accordance with your will. May we all help to fashion in this country a society that excels in freedom and justice, tolerance and compassion, so that it may be a force for righteousness and peace in the life of humanity.
Eternal God, as you blessed our ancestors in generations past, bless now this congregation, its leaders and its members, and all who enter this synagogue to meet, to study, and to pray. Comfort the sorrowing hearts among us, and heal those in anxiety or pain. May we all find here community and friendship, renewal of purpose and hope, a deeper understanding of our heritage, and a sense of your abiding presence. Bless all congregations of the House of Israel throughout the world. Let those who live under oppressive rule soon be freed, and may we all unite to witness your truth and do your will.
Eternal God, our rock and redeemer, grant blessing to the state of Israel, created to fulfill an age-old dream and to be a haven for the oppressed. Inspire its leaders and its citizens with faithfulness to the aims of its founders, to develop the land for the benefit of all its inhabitants, and to implement the prophetic ideals of liberty and justice. May they live in harmony with one another and in peace with their neighbors, and cause to come true once more the ancient vision that out of Zion shall go forth Torah and the word of God from Jerusalem.
And we have an extra little prayer. On this day, we look back at the years that have passed since Rebecca became a rabbi. Many and varied have been her experiences since that turning point in her life. Joy and sorrow, success and failure, achievement and disappointment. Through all of these, her strength has sustained her. Her family and friends and her community have supported her. The teachers of her faith have guided her. And your invisible presence, O God, has been to her a never-failing source of strength and comfort.
God of all generations, Rebecca has been richly blessed, and now we pray, accept our thanksgiving and continue to bless her in the years to come. May they be years of health and happiness, love and contentment, and service to this very special community.
Well, Zoe has a big part in that.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. So let's prepare to put the scroll away. Let's all stay standing. Tree flag. So we can sit down now.
As John just said, we blindsided each other. So, you might know, it's Rabbi Rebecca's 20th anniversary of being a rabbi. Now, 20 years is a long time. So, I thought we'd get some help in to remember the highlights. I'm handing over first to Rabbi Danny Rich, but I want to remind all of you, even you, that you've got 90 seconds, otherwise we'll be having Kiddush very late.
You did tell me in my email it was 2 minutes. Friends, I guess as a rabbi I should begin in this week's Torah portion, Matot Masai. Unfortunately, I hope Rebecca was going to tell us it was a joint portion, but she didn't. But, you know, we all have one thing that we get wrong in 20 years. But the joint portion, there are only 7 joint portions in the 50-plus Torah portions. And that's the first thing I just want to say, that 7 out of 50-plus says this is a very special Shabbat. And Rebecca is a very special rabbi, a leading rabbi of this generation. And that's the first thing that I just want to say and observe. Matot concludes with a dispute in which the Gadites and the Reubenites want to remain on the wrong side of the River Jordan. And they say 2 things. They first of all say, it's not our problem what happens. And the other thing is they say we're more interested in sheep than we are in children. Now, I don't know whether, in fact, Rebecca's more interested in wildlife than she is in human life, but I want to say this. They get criticised. Because the tradition says they didn't really work out what was really important. Because what is really important is people more than animals. Even if, like me, you're an animal lover. And that brings me to the second gift that Rebecca brings, that she really knows what's important. That's not an easy skill, by the way, and it takes a lot of time and thought, but she, bottom line, knows what's really important. And to me, that's a very valuable attribute as a rabbi. But the most important one is that the Reubenites and the Gadites get criticized because they're interested in themselves. And the greatest thing I love about Rebecca is, as a rabbi, she puts herself last. I don't always advise that, by the way, but that's what she does. She puts her community, her congregation, individuals, and her family before sometimes her own interests. And that's why the piece that Maya read, which says, find yourself a friend, find yourself a teacher, but most of all, be that person who is there when nobody else can be. And so, and I give just one example. There was a funeral I was due to do last week, and the only rabbi that I would stay on holiday for and not come back was if Rebecca would agree to cover for me. And she did, and I've heard from the family that she fulfilled everything that I could expect of this wonderful student. I'm too old to remember, it's a function of memory, when we first met. But I do remember that I was involved when Rebecca was a student, and I identified this was somebody who was going to make such an important contribution. And I'm probably gone over my 2 minutes, Zoe, so I'll get in trouble. But suffice to say, I love her, I admire her, I think she's wonderful, and long may she remain in Finchley and understand that, who knows, this may be where she reaches the pinnacle of her career, or perhaps she'll do something else. But whatever she does, she will bring that unique humanity. Learning you can find out, management you can find out, bureaucracy you can find out. What she brings is a unique humanity to the individuals she works with. And I see it as I go around. I call on my neighbours. She's already been. And brings with her a rabbinic presence that I admire, respect and love.
Thank you, Danny. Really, I would hug you, but I'm not allowed. Thank you, thank you.
Rabbi Rebecca, can I ask you to stand there? I just see, the folk online can't see your happy face, so they'd like to. I'll next introduce Rabbi Michael Farbman.
Wow.
No sound tech.
What would we do without Josie? This must not be a good time of day for Michael Farbman.
So happened that I have not been able to remain in the same space and share professional experiences with you on the regular. Dearest Rebecca, dear James, it's hard to believe that it is almost 25 years since we met for the first time at Rebecca College, and that it has now been 20 years since we stood on the beam of West London Synagogue in our Talitot, receiving Torah scrolls from the hands of our mentors. I cherish the memories, I cherish the experiences, I cherish that moment, and certainly that photograph that has stayed with me for the last 20 years. I do miss both of you, badly. It's so happened that I have not been able to remain in the same space and share professional experiences with you on a regular basis as we did in the beginning of my career. But I often think of you, and I send you a huge mazel tov from a distance. Alas, 6 a.m. is a little too early on this side of the Atlantic to join you for a service, but I'm glad to do so virtually, and I wish you both mazel tov on the 20th anniversary. May you continue to lead and inspire our people as you have done for the last 20 years, for many years to come, and I look forward to being under the same roof, and please God, on the same bima with you one of these days. With much love, see you soon.
How amazing.
And on to Rabbi James Barden.
So, as they say in the Vatican, Zoe, 90 schminty. I'll try my best. So, actually, my story goes back a little farther because, yes, Rebecca and I were ordained together on the 8th of July, 2001, 20 years ago. But in fact, on that occasion, I referred to another ordination that I had been present at. Indeed, 12 years earlier, in 1989, I was present at the ordination of Rabbi Danny Rich in exactly the same building in West London Synagogue. And I've referred to that in my remarks on that occasion in July. So Rebecca and I met 25, 26 years ago, very near here, on the grounds of the Sternberg Center, and Schloss Sternberg, as I call it, where we were being interviewed as prospective students at Leobeck College. And we were accepted, and we then studied together for 5 years at Leobeck College. And we also had a year together in the Holy City in Jerusalem. And that was still back in the 20th century. Now, Rebecca, of course, was much younger than I was or am, and Michael was yet younger than both of us. Anyhow, we were ordained in 2001, and we have remained colleagues and close friends ever since. I want to say a word now about how Rebecca approaches interactions with other human beings, which is all about our profession, about our studies, about living in community and in family, and so on. So there was a prize-winning ad, commercial you might say, on French television a few years ago, about 10 years ago, for an American fast food chain, I have to tell you, in the land of haute cuisine, nevertheless, very good ad. And it shows a teenage boy of 16 or 17 who's meeting his dad to have whatever they serve in that fast food joint. And the boy is having a very romantic conversation on the telephone. It's interrupted when the father comes back with their food. And we get to see, as the viewers, that this boy is not talking to his girlfriend, as we might think, but to his boyfriend. And the father doesn't know it. And the slogan from this particular company is, and I like it in French in particular, venez comme vous êtes. Venez comme vous êtes. Now we know it in English, come as you are. Now that does not mean that Rebecca's approach is just to rock up wearing any old thing, unprepared or whatever. No, no, no. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the, there you go. I'm talking about the welcome that she extends to other human beings when she encounters them. And I think it is absolutely, and always has been, venez comme vous êtes. Come as you are. She welcomes people into her acquaintance as they are, just as they are, the people they are. Now, some of us, of course, have to disguise ourselves. Some of us, of course, can't tell the truth fully like the boy in the commercial. But she understands that too, because that's how they are at that particular moment in their lives. And she welcomes them too. She acknowledges them as they are. She affirms them. And I think that's characteristic of her approach in every interaction in life with other persons. She says, venez comme vous êtes. But we're not a French-speaking country, so she says, come as you are. That's her approach. Bringing us now a little bit up to date, till now. First of all, I want to acknowledge that it's a great joy to be up here, of course with Rebecca, but also with Natasha. I have to reveal to you that Natasha and I lead services all the time at another synagogue somewhere near here. And we spend a lot of time puzzling as to whether we are going to be leading services, for example, yesterday. But I did lead a service with her a week ago. And she's also a wonderful teacher in our community, I have to reveal to you. So it's a real pleasure to encounter her here today. Another thing I'd like to say on the occasion of this particular service, with all of you here, young people who attend schools, I have no children. And one of the things that's been most amazing to me in the last year and a half is the way that you, children, young people, attending school, the way you have dealt with this unbelievable set of circumstances that we've all had to cope with in the last year and a half. You go to school, you stay at home, you go to a school and you're told, walk this way, and then walk that way, walk in a circle, go out the door, go back home, come back to school, etc., etc. You do it all. It's absolutely amazing. In the middle of this pandemic, which has convulsed the world, it's absolutely extraordinary what you do. And I'm full of admiration for you. And finally, it's a trick of fate, I would say, that it so happens that now Rebecca and I share a similar role. Now, it's absolutely understandable and correct that she is now the co-chair of the conference of rabbis and cantors in liberal synagogues. Absolutely. But it is a freakish twist of fate that at the same time, I happen to be the co-chair of the comparable body for the Reformed synagogues. It's called the Assembly of Rabbis and Cantors. So we get to collaborate professionally as the joint co-chairs of these two different bodies. And that's very meaningful to me because I'm now retiring from my job in the Congregational Rabbinate in a couple of months. But I will stay on in that particular role. So it means I will have an opportunity to go on working in particular with Rebecca in that lofty role heading the Assembly of Rabbis.
Probably the hardest job there is, to corral rabbis.
I'll just say, when I ended up becoming the co-chair of this Assembly of Rabbis, I was reminded of a verse from Tennyson's poem, The Lady of Shalott. And it says of the knights in Camelot, it says, because I think my colleagues in the Reform movement were altogether surprised when they heard this news. Anyway, and it says, and in the lighted palace near, the knights of Camelot, they crossed themselves for fear. And you have the vision of the knights in Camelot going, what on earth is happening as they hear of the approach of the Lady of Shalott? So anyway, I think some of my colleagues were a little bit surprised and perplexed, but I hope they will be willingly corralled by me and our wonderful colleague, Rabbi Kathleen Middleton.
Thank you so much, James. It's such a treat. Here is your talit. To have you here. I did not know that you were going to be here today, and it's just, I remember that first interview all those years ago where we were as much interviewing Leo Beck College as it was interviewing us, wondering if we would want to be rabbis, and all those years and the highs and the lows and the way we supported each other. Our year in Israel where James lived with nuns and I lived with a rather crazy roommate. He made the better choice. Truly our lives have intertwined with each other as rabbis, and I'm so glad that you're here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Truly.
Thank you to Zoe for giving me this opportunity.
Looking so resplendent in blue silk.
Well, what am I going to do now? I'm going to study Chinese.
Oh, okay.
After I retire.
Having reviewed Rabbi Rebecca's time at Leo Beck College, we go to Rabbi Alex Wright.
Shabbat Shalom. I am honoured to be invited to say a few words to you, Rebecca, at this special service of celebration to mark 20 years since your ordination. I am really sorry not to be with you either in person or on live Zoom, but pleased to be able to record this message to you. I was privileged to be your ordaining rabbi in 2001. Even before you had been ordained, you had taken a challenging intellectual path of reading theology at Bristol and continuing your studies at Harvard Divinity School. And since ordination, you have immersed yourself in the Congregational Rabbinate at Woodford, Westminster, and now at Finchley Progressive Synagogue. As a rabbi, you will continue committed to the congregation, to the colleagues, and to Tikkun Olam, to the endeavour of creating a better society through your social justice work. In your own community, you have brought together members and visitors to celebrate and mark important occasions in their lives, and I know how thankful your members are that they have a rabbi who cares for them and inspires them to be exemplary liberal Jews, as you yourself are. You have created beautiful spaces to celebrate and affirm the rights of LGBTQ+ rights for your own members and the wider Jewish community. You have worked immensely hard to win a pledge from Barnet Council to take more refugees from war-torn countries. Your sanctuary Sukkot brought in Barnet councillors to get them on your side. Your community has supported Syrian families resettled in Barnet, creating a safe and warm space for them and their children. You have protested outside the Home Office to ensure that unaccompanied children are brought into the UK. And perhaps unusually for rabbis who are always immersed in the day-to-day activities of congregational life, you've given time to your own inner spiritual life. I was so moved and impressed that you took yourself to Bali for a silent, meditative retreat, and I feel sure that the impact of those weeks in silence have had a lasting effect not only on you, but on your members as well. The place of young people, spirituality, tikkun olam, widening the inclusiveness of your community, all these have marked out and continue to distinguish your rabbinate. And I, along with all your colleagues, are so grateful to you for your commitment to us as co-chair of CORAB, the Conference of Liberal Rabbis and Cantors. Your intellect, your kindness and humour continue to inspire all those who know you and are influenced by you. And you have done and are all this while raising your own amazing family, Reuben, Dora and Raphael. I wish you Mazel Tov on the 20th anniversary since your smicha, and send you my love and good wishes for the next 20 and please God 40.
It turns out 90 seconds doesn't mean anything to rabbis. Thankfully, the next people to speak are not rabbis. So, in order, Valerie, the chair from Woodford, and our own member now, Sarah from Westminster, and then Alex Kinchin-Smith from FPS.
In 2001, I was the chair of council. Sorry, I'm getting myself back, so I'll try my best. And we advertised for a full-time rabbi. Little did I know at the time that this would be the start of a relationship that is very special to me and, of course, Howard and Jacqueline. As you have heard, there were 3 graduates from Leo Beck College that year, so we were hopeful as they were all excellent. I got a call from one of the graduates to say that she was hoping to put an application in, but wanted to check that it was okay that she was also applying to other synagogues. I said that was fine, as we were also interviewing other candidates. A few weeks later, I, together with the other synagogue officers and the then chair of Rights and Practices, now chair of LJ, Ruth Seeger, was sitting round a table interviewing Rebecca. And as I said in my welcome speech at her induction, something clicked. And by the time I said goodbye to her at the front door, I knew we'd just interviewed our new rabbi. As you would imagine, Rebecca really hit the ground running. And I remember on any number of occasions, I had to remind her that we didn't expect her to do everything in the first few weeks. The services, as you can imagine, were really warm. And I particularly remember the lovely family services. Even then, she was nurturing our youngsters. She persuaded council to invest in large cushions so they could be scattered around the floor to make things less formal. And she enthusiastically got involved with our religion school. She also made the prayer book, which was much newer in those days, come alive with her joy in it, and rather than just reciting the prayers, telling us about their origins. As she does now at Finchley, she brought warmth to all the services. When Rebecca arrived at Woodford, she was newly married, and at the end of services could be in her car and away in the blink of an eye. That all altered after Reuben was born. Unfortunately, she had to announce she was expecting rather sooner than planned due to a certain fainting incident during a Shabbat morning service. It was lovely, though, that both Reuben and Dora's baby blessings were at Woodford and were a joy for the congregation to be part of. As they say, all things, good things come to an end, and circumstances altered for Rebecca, and she left us and went to Westminster. I thought that was it, but life is full of surprises. Howard and I started coming to FPS, and were obviously upset when Neil announced he was leaving. But every cloud has a silver lining. Thank you, Rebecca, for everything over all the years. We love you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rebecca is an inspirational rabbi. I don't need to tell you that. Her time at Westminster is often quoted today. When I return from time to time and I see people from Westminster, they still quote her. She arrived with 2 children and left with 3, and that is when I met her. And I served her as chair of education. I do remember when I was thinking about joining Westminster, Rebecca was on maternity leave then. A friend of mine, Abel, said, "You've got to join." My girls love her. She's the coolest Jew there is. That was true. When I met Rebecca, I connected, and we've been connected for years. She encouraged my family to go on an organized trip with her, with Hendon Reform, with Valerie and Rabbi Frank. And it was truly one of the most memorable experiences of my life. And through that trip and spending more time with Rebecca, I can see she's a true leader, educator, and friend. These are a few quotes from the Westminster children when Rebecca was unfortunately leaving. There were lots of "I miss yous." Thank you for your passion, intelligence, depth, and inspiration. You have been an amazing rabbi at Westminster. Good luck in your new role. They're lucky to have you. Thank you for coordinating, teaching, and guidance throughout my years at Westminster. Most people would not have been brought together if it was not for all your love and all you have put into coming to synagogue. Thank you.
I love that these relationships that I made at different synagogues have ended up coming over to Finchley, and it's a great delight for me. Thank you so much. Wow, Zoe, you've been thorough.
Well, Rebecca, you've brought so much to our community of FPS over the past 10 years that it was really a pretty tough gig to know what to say in such a short slot. So I want to highlight 3 moments to try and illustrate some of what for me makes you so special as our rabbi. The first is actually 2 moments, to be honest. The B'nai Mitzvah of Jacob and Asher, my kids. And in fact, I could be talking about any B'nai Mitzvah held here at Finchley, because you create an experience that makes the Bar Mitzvah family feel so special, but at the same time, a celebration for the whole of the community. And you bring this to all of our services, perfectly illustrated, I think, this morning, taking care to create an environment where all of us, young and old, those of us who like to try different things, and those of us who like it just so, can all really find our place. The second moment I'd like to highlight was the Shiva of Clive Winston, Zichrono Livracha. And it's an evening I still remember well, because that evening you brought people together to share stories about Clive in such a beautiful way. That even though I knew Clive less than some, I was deeply touched. And I've seen you repeatedly support families with bereavement and illness with such thoughtfulness over the years. You have such a positive impact on everyone each and every time. And the third moment that I want to share is another really unforgettable evening where so many people worked so hard to fill our sanctuary and hold the leader of Barnet Council to account to accept Syrian refugees to our borough. And what struck me most that evening, and with all that you do to support a community, to do good and to bring Tikkun Olam, is the humility you bring with your leadership. Because actually you did make the Evening Standard most influential women that year, but actually it wasn't about you and it's not about you. And you enable others to follow their passion and to do the things that they want, and you guide us and you support us and you inspire us so that together we can make a real difference. So just 3 small insights from me, Rebecca. There's so much more I could say. We're all running over, but thank you so much for all that you bring to us. And I'm sure I speak for the entire community when I hope that you're with us for 10 more years.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Zoe.
No. It's dangerous because we're going back to rabbis. But as hopefully one rabbi inspires another, so I'm going to go to Elliot Karstadt now.
Shabbat Shalom. Probably nearly 10 years ago since Rebecca was the first person to sit me down in her office and say, now really have you considered going to Learbeck College? It took me a while to apply and to go to Learbeck College and to make that leap into the rabbinate. And then when I was asked who I wanted to ordain me at the end of my time, Rebecca was the only obvious answer to that question, as someone who had inspired me throughout my time there. And I know that, Rebecca, you're a fan of Rabbi Nachman, so I went today to the beginning of his work, Likudei Moharan, and I found the words at the beginning really very moving. Hador atem ra'u davar Adonai. The words of Prophet Isaiah, telling the generation that they should see the words of the Eternal. And that was, it made me think of the fact that when watching you at FPS and being such an inspiration to me, it was really seeing and not necessarily just hearing, seeing your example as a rabbi and making me want to follow that path as well. And Rabbi Nachman goes on to talk about how some things are seen and some things are hidden. And I'm not sure I agree, because I think actually when it comes to your rabbinate at any rate, a bit related to what James said and what Danny said as well about making things accessible to everyone, making sure everyone can see, and as exemplified in today's service, making Judaism and synagogue life accessible to as many as possible. And that was definitely something which my class and I, not just me, but my class of rabbis of 2020 saw you as someone who exemplified and really brought to us. And when we talked about examples of who the kind of rabbis we wanted to be, often you were one of those that we mentioned. I miss FPS and I miss our services, but I'm going to bring something that I'm borrowing from my current synagogue at Eilid, which is to mark this moving into the 21st year of your rabbinate with a quote from Psalm 21, it actually mostly speaks about God doing things, but it seems to make sense for you as well. And it says that God has offered birchot tov, blessings of goodness, and may you continue to offer those to us all, and to inspire your congregation to bring those as well in the years to come. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you. And finally, hopefully, I think Rabbi Charlie Baginski is here to just talk a little bit about Kolrak.
Thank you. Such a delight to be able to have made it here. And I just wanted to share a few words. I've got a memory of when Rebecca went on sabbatical and Dora left on her bed on the first day a book called Meditations for Women Who Do Too Much. And there's a wonderful quote in there which I wanted to share, which says, "We miss the opportunity to marvel at our wonders because we have so much set up still to do, that what we have done pales into insignificance in relation to what is always yet to be done. Ugly is in the eye of beholder. Today is an awareness day for what you have accomplished. Celebrations may be in order." Rebecca, this has been my abiding thought of you as a rabbi, but in this context really as the joint chair of Kolrak. It's in so many ways your time to fill that role, one which gives the opportunity for so many more to hear your voice and experience your wisdom and leadership. In this role and in your relationship to liberal Judaism, you are always seeking to make us grow and develop, to reach more people, to think more deeply, to act more boldly. Liberal Judaism has always been a rabbinic-led movement, and I am certain that with you at the helm of our conference, the rabbinic voice will be stronger, more diverse, and more vibrant than it has ever been before. On a very personal level, it has been inspiring to be able to follow in your footsteps and to be inspired by the integrity, bravery, and sincerity you bring to the rabbinate that calls on all of us to be more honest and more whole. I know that there is much more that you want to do and achieve, and that 20 years is in many ways just the first marker stone as you go from strength to strength and push liberal Judaism to go from strength to strength as the home for more and more people's Jewish story. Yet I hope today is for you also that Awareness Day. Awareness Day as a woman and a rabbi that does so much, that allows you a moment for all of us to tell you how much you've accomplished, and that celebrations are definitely in order.
Thank you, Charlie. Truly, thank you, Charlie, for coming. And Elliot, I didn't realize you were here. I think hearing those words from fellow colleagues, and Elliot, now you're one of my proudest days really was to ordain you and be invited to ordain you. So I love this web of connections that we have all around this synagogue, and the notion that we as liberal Jews care about the relationship we're in with each other and our rabbis. Thank you both so much. Wow, you have been very thorough, Zoe. I feel somewhat humbled and really embarrassed that this year has been me turning 50 when you as a congregation were so generous and warm to me, 10 years with you as a congregation, which I felt very proud of, and now this moment that James and I mark of 20 years since Thursday. But I feel a bit embarrassed that you're having to go through this again, but I appreciate it hugely. Please tell me this is the end. Right. Shall we continue with our service so that we make it to Kiddush? Thank you for all those who contributed. But we're going to go now to our special Aleinu. Please stand. I think I've got Paula Kinchin-Smith reading responsively with me. Am I right, Zoe? With Michael. No, please, with Michael. So Michael and Paula will read from page 34 before we offer together as a community Kaddish. Michael, you come up here.
I believe Paula is starting.
Yeah. And then all that has divided us will merge.
And then compassion will be wedded to power.
And then softness will come to a world that is harsh and unkind.
And then both men and women will be gentle.
And then both women and men will be strong.
And then no person will be subject to another person's will.
And then all will be rich and free and varied.
And then the greed of some will give way to the needs of many.
And then all will share equally in the earth's abundance.
And then all will care for the sick and the weak and the old.
And then all will nourish the young.
And then all will cherish life's creatures.
And then everywhere will be called Eden once again.
Thank you. ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. So as we gather right now as a congregation to support each other, those who are marking yard sites at this time, we think particularly of Harold and Sadie Sheila Collett, father and mother of Andrea and grandparents of Alex, Ruth and Natasha Collett, of Alaric Cotter, partner of Bobby Hood, of Lou Lewis, father of David Lewis, of Charles Hardoon, father of Janet Barak, of Audrey Jacobs, grandmother of Zoe Jacobs, of Elena Needleman, aunt of Adele Carr, of Harold Rose, uncle of Lillian Gelnick, and Martin Salmons, brother of Lillian Gelnick. Zichronam livracha. May their memories be for a blessing, and may those who recall and remember their loved ones feel comforted as with their community, Kaddish is offered. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shamei rabbah, bi'alma divrach yerutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'hayachon u'v'yom echon u'v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, b'agalav izman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mavorach le'olam omer maya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'av v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadav v'yitaleh v'talal shemei dekudusha brichu leila min kol berchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechemata da'amiram b'yalma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shamaya v'chayim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'imru amen. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ועל כל בני אדם, ואמרו, Amen. So friends, I think we are almost at Kiddush. I think Roy's doing announcements. You doing announcements from here, Roy? Fantastic.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. First of all, I'd like to do the thank yous to our tech crew now, Michael and David, and all the people on security, and all the Ivriar students for coming and helping us with the service this morning. And really, just to say thank you to all the speakers. Suzanne was talking about Zoe, so thank you to Zoe for 4 years. And kind of what a time to sum up the service. I think I have a card for Rebecca from all of us in the community to congratulate her on her 20 years. It's been a very inspiring to learn all about your studies, from time for studies to a time now, and all the people who've influenced and have loved you and respected you. And I know that goes from my family as well. You've helped us through happy times of my children's bar mitzvahs and also sad times through funerals, and you've helped us understand each event as it came through us. So from all of us at the community, and here's a card made by one of our leading members, Josie, of course. So I won't take any credit for it. Thanks, Josie, for that. But
Wow, Josie, you have outdone yourself. That is extraordinary. Thank you. Roy, I'll let you get on with the announcements.
And just, I won't do too many announcements because I know it's been quite a long service. Please do check out the website. I've only got 2 things I'd really like to mention. One is it is Jonah Brandon Rock's bar mitzvah this afternoon. We're having a celebration service in the afternoon at 2 p.m. And for those who'd like to log on via Zoom, we think it's the same link, but do check out the website for the link. It's all on there. And then on Thursday at, I think, 7 p.m. is the big one, our AGM, which I'm sure you all will be there, and we'll welcome you to that. And Shabbat Shalom to everybody.
Shabbat Shalom. Thanks so much, Roy. So are we going straight into, are we doing Adon Olam, or have you, Yevarechecha, lovely, a blessing for all of us. Take off your tali tod, get ready for Kiddush, and for the end of the service. Are we having the children up here to be blessed? Or
no, we're going to do that in a minute, but just we wanted to add your own Yevarechecha. Nearly, it's so nearly. May God bless you and keep you at FPS. May God look kindly upon you and be gracious to you. May God reach out to you in tenderness and give you pieces of nice dark chocolate and a cup of coffee. And let us say, Amen.
Amen.
Elohim ka Ephraim v'chi
morning. It's been tremendous having you with us this morning. So I believe that you all have your kiddush under your chairs. And we've got kiddush here, and I believe Rabbi James and Lucy are leading us in kiddush this morning. Is that right?
Rabbi James, we've also got a card for you on your 20th anniversary, so we'd love to give that to you too.
And Hannah.
And Hannah too. So Hannah and Lucy up for kiddush.
In the meantime, Hannah and Lucy just have a few gifts for Rabbi Rebecca. A card from everyone, your own brilliant person badge, and a medal.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, girls. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Kiddush. I'll find it. Okay, everyone, let's stand. I'm sure you're gagging for kiddush now.
I need to do this from the book. I need to do this from the book. I don't
Here
do
we
it.
are. Here we are. See?
Oh, right. But I know from memory, having worked in a liberal synagogue for many years, in fact, South London Liberal Synagogue, which Danny Rich referred to, where his late father was the chair when I went to work there. So, I knew that Erev Shabbat is page 564, and I still announce it in Reform synagogues everywhere, and they look, what's he talking about? Anyway, here we are.
James, can you take your mask off?
Oh yes, that's right, it's permitted, isn't it? I've lost track in my life now of what's permitted and what isn't permitted, when and where, and goodness knows what else. Zechor et Yom HaShabbat, lekadsho. Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat, la'asot et HaShabbat, l'dorotam berit olam. Beni uven b'nei Yisrael, od hilei olam. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat, la'asot et HaShabbat, l'dorotam berit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz v'shamru v'nei Yisrael et hashabat la'asot et hashabat l'dorotam berit olam. Uvayom hashvi'i shavat vayinafash v'shamru v'nei Yisrael et hashabat la'asot et hashabat l'dorotam berit olam. Al kein berach Adonai et yom hashabat v'yekadeshehu. Therefore, the Eternal One blessed the Sabbath day, Shabbat, and called it holy. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafein.
Amen. Over to you, girls.
Amen.
Amen. Oh my gosh. So, everyone, apparently you have cupcakes instead of challah under your chairs. And here are more cupcakes to eat if for whatever reason you didn't have one under your chair. So Shabbat Shalom, and thank you so much. And I'm going to walk you all out now to eat your cupcakes in the garden. How amazing. Is that it?
Yeah, that's at the end of the commercial. It's just. Have you ever seen it?